And remittances actually are a lifeline. I call it dollars wrapped with care for poor people.
When we talk about crypto, the conversation too often revolves around Wall Street, ETFs, or whether Bitcoin is hitting a new all-time high. But here's the truth. The real battleground for blockchain isn't happening in New York, London, or Tokyo. It's happening in Lagos. It's happening in Sao Paulo. It's happening in Manila. Emerging markets, Africa, Latin America, Asia, these are the places where the next financial revolution is taking shape. And right now, Stellar XLM is quietly positioning itself at the heart of it. Let's step back for a second and ask a basic question. Why do emerging markets matter so much? For starters, the numbers are staggering. Over 1 billion people worldwide remain unbanked. No savings accounts, no credit cards, no way to participate in the formal financial system. Yet many of these same people own smartphones. They might not have access to a bank, but they have a mobile phone in their pocket, and that changes everything. Think about what that means. If you're living in rural Kenya, or a barrio in Colombia, or a fishing village in the Philippines, your phone isn't just for Instagram or TikTok. It's your connection to money, to family, to opportunity. And that's where Stellar comes in. Unlike blockchains designed for high-frequency trading or flashy NFT drops, Stellar was literally built for payments, for cross-border flows, for stability. It's lightweight, fast, cheap. Exactly the kind of infrastructure that can thrive in places where fees and delays are deal breakers. Now, let's talk remittances. In 2025, the World Bank estimates global remittances will top $860 billion. That's almost $1 trillion being sent home every year by migrant workers. Money that puts food on tables, pays for school fees, and keeps lights on for families. And here's the kicker. The people sending those remittances are paying some of the highest fees in the world. In some corridors, sending $200 can cost $15 or more in fees. That might not sound like much in New York, but for someone scraping by in Mexico or Nigeria, that's devastating. This is why Stellar matters. The network was designed to make cross-border payments as easy as sending a text message. It's not about speculation, it's about infrastructure. And when you pair Stellar with stablecoins like USDC, suddenly you have a system that can move real dollars instantly across borders at a fraction of the cost of traditional money transfer operators. But remittances are just one piece of the puzzle. Let's talk currency stability. If you've been following global headlines, you know inflation is hammering emerging markets. Argentina is still battling annual inflation above 100%. In Nigeria, the naira has lost nearly 70% of its value in the last few years. In Turkey, in Venezuela, in Lebanon, entire savings have evaporated overnight. For people living in those economies, the ability to hold value in a stable digital currency isn't a luxury, it's survival. And here's where Stellar plays a subtle but powerful role. Through its partnerships with fintechs and NGOs, it's giving people the ability to access stable assets like USDC or other tokenized currencies directly from their phones. No need to queue at a bank that might collapse tomorrow. No need to stash dollars under a mattress. For someone living with double or triple-digit inflation, this isn't abstract tech. It's a lifeline. Another angle we can't ignore is small business access to credit. Traditional banks in emerging markets are notorious for shutting out the very people who need loans the most. If you're a farmer in rural India or a street vendor in Brazil, good luck getting a bank loan. The requirements are impossible. Collateral, credit history, steady salary. But with blockchain rails like Stellar, new models are emerging: peer-to-peer lending, microloans, community savings pools, all powered by transparent, programmable money. Suddenly, a fruit seller in Nairobi can take a $50 loan, pay it back digitally, and build a credit trail that allows her to borrow again. That's empowerment. And we haven't even touched on diaspora flows. Let's be real. Migration defines emerging markets. Millions of people leave their home countries every year, sending money back to support families. The Philippines is a prime example. Remittances make up over 9% of its GDP. In El Salvador, it's even higher, around 25%. These flows aren't side stories. They are the backbone of national economies. And if Stellar can reduce fees, increase speed, and make those flows more reliable, the impact is enormous, not just for individuals but for entire countries. Here's another layer. Financial inclusion as a political stabilizer. We all know money fuels unrest. When people can't access their wages, when their currency collapses, when banks fail, societies destabilize. But when people can send, save, and spend securely, you build resilience. This is why NGOs like Mercy Corps are working with Stellar. Not because they want to ride the crypto hype wave, but because they see financial access as a cornerstone of peace and stability. And let me point this out, the leapfrogging effect. Emerging markets don't have to go through the same clunky financial evolution as the West. They don't need physical bank branches on every corner. They don't need credit card penetration to reach 70%. They can leapfrog straight into digital finance the same way Africa leapfrogged landlines and went straight to mobile phones. Stellar is one of the few blockchains perfectly suited for that leap because it doesn't require massive infrastructure, just a phone and a wallet app. Now, skeptics might say, well, aren't there other blockchains trying to do this? Ripple, Celo, even Solana. And they're right, competition is fierce. But Stellar has a couple of unique advantages. First, its governance and partnerships are deeply tied to NGOs, regulators, and institutions. It's not just trying to win traders, it's working with the UN, with global aid agencies, with MoneyGram. Second, the cost structure is unbeatable. Fees are fractions of a cent, which makes it actually usable in real-world scenarios where people are moving $20, not $20,000. Let me give you a real-world example. In 2024, UNHCR expanded its Stellar-based pilot in Ukraine, delivering humanitarian aid in USDC through digital wallets. By 2025, that model has been replicated in parts of Africa and Latin America. Why? Because it works. It's fast, transparent, and cheap. And the same rails that deliver humanitarian aid can just as easily deliver remittances or small business loans. That's the beauty of it. Once the pipes are laid, you can send any form of value across them. Let's paint the backdrop. Africa is home to 1.4 billion people, and nearly half of them are unbanked. That means hundreds of millions of people have no access to savings accounts, credit, or secure payment systems. And yet, paradoxically, Africa is one of the most mobile-first continents on Earth. In countries like Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana, people are more likely to have a smartphone than a bank account. Here's something worth emphasizing. Stellar doesn't just serve individuals. It strengthens entire financial ecosystems. In Africa, where small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, are the backbone of the economy, access to cross-border payments is a game-changer. SMEs often get squeezed by high transaction fees and currency exchange costs. With Stellar, those businesses can move money across borders quickly and cheaply, freeing up capital to reinvest in growth. And let's not forget humanitarian use cases, because Africa is also where NGOs are testing blockchain rails for aid delivery. In places like Ethiopia and Sudan, traditional banking infrastructure is weak or non-existent. But with Stellar, aid agencies can deliver funds directly into people's digital wallets, cutting out corruption and ensuring that the money goes exactly where it's needed. We're already seeing pilots where refugees can cash out USDC at MoneyGram locations in minutes, a model that could scale across the continent. Another fascinating angle is Africa's role in renewable energy and microfinance. Many rural communities live off the grid, relying on small solar panels for electricity. Companies are now experimenting with Stellar-based micropayments to let households pay for power on a pay-as-you-go basis. Instead of buying expensive equipment upfront, families can top up small amounts daily, paying in stablecoins through their phones. This is financial inclusion meeting energy inclusion, and it's happening on Stellar rails. Now, let's talk numbers because the scale here is massive. The African remittance market alone is worth over $95 billion annually, and it's one of the most expensive corridors in the world. Fees often average 8 to 10%, compared to the global average of 6%. If Stellar can reduce those fees to under 1%, which it can, we're talking billions of dollars staying in the pockets of families instead of lining the coffers of intermediaries. That's not incremental change. That's transformative. But it's not just about fees. It's about speed and reliability. If you've ever tried sending money into or out of Africa, you know the frustration. Transfers that take days, banks that block transactions, currencies that fluctuate between the time you send and the time your family receives. Stellar's near-instant settlement solves that pain point. For someone trying to pay school fees in Accra or medical bills in Lagos, hours matter. Days can be devastating. And here's something that doesn't get enough attention. Stellar is helping Africa connect to the global economy. Right now, a lot of African businesses are effectively cut off because international buyers don't trust local banking systems. By using Stellar rails and stablecoins, those businesses can bypass that mistrust. A small exporter in Nairobi can get paid in USDC, cash out locally, and never worry about being underpaid because of exchange rate swings or delayed transfers. That's how you empower entrepreneurs. And honestly, when you zoom out, this is about more than money. It's about dignity. It's about empowerment. It's about giving a young entrepreneur in Lagos the same financial tools as someone in London. It's about making sure a family in Nairobi doesn't lose half their remittance to fees. It's about helping African economies plug directly into global flows without being penalized for where they're located. So when we say Stellar is becoming a key player in emerging markets, Africa is Exhibit A. The continent is young, dynamic, mobile-first, and hungry for solutions that actually work. And Stellar? Stellar is delivering. When we shift the spotlight from Africa to Latin America, the story of Stellar takes on a different flavor, but the underlying theme stays the same. Broken financial systems and people searching for an escape hatch. In Latin America, the word that looms over every economic conversation is inflation. Think about Argentina. Inflation there isn't just a statistic you glance at in the news. It's a daily lived reality. Prices can change between the morning and the evening. The peso has collapsed so many times that families don't trust it anymore. People rush to convert their paychecks into dollars the moment they're paid, just to protect their savings. The problem? Access to US dollars is tightly controlled by the government, creating a black market and sky-high exchange spreads. This is exactly the kind of environment where Stellar shines. By giving Argentinians access to stablecoins like USDC on Stellar rails, they suddenly have a way to hold digital dollars, safely, instantly, and without dealing with shady middlemen. Instead of storing cash under the mattress or hustling through unofficial exchanges, families can use wallets connected to Stellar and know their value won't evaporate overnight. And it's not just individuals. Small businesses in Argentina often can't access hard currency to import goods or pay suppliers abroad. With Stellar, they can send and receive stablecoins seamlessly, bypassing the red tape and corruption that bog down the system. For a country that's been in and out of IMF bailouts for decades, this kind of financial workaround isn't a luxury. It's survival. Brazil, meanwhile, shows us the potential of Stellar in a country that already has a strong digital payments culture. Brazil's instant payment system, PIX, has taken the country by storm. Nearly everyone uses it. But PIX is domestic. It doesn't solve cross-border challenges. Stellar can layer on top of PIX, creating bridges between Brazil and the rest of the world. That's where fintech startups are experimenting, combining the local convenience of PIX with the global reach of Stellar's network. There's also a cultural angle here. Latin Americans are no strangers to financial innovation. They've lived through enough crises to know not to trust their banks or their governments blindly. Crypto adoption rates in countries like Argentina, Brazil, and Venezuela are among the highest in the world. But most of that adoption is speculative, chasing Bitcoin rallies or trading altcoins. Stellar is carving out a different space. It's less about hype, more about utility. It's about paying bills, sending money, and protecting savings. That resonates with people who've been burned too many times by empty promises. One story I keep hearing from LatAm is how Stellar helps everyday workers. Picture a freelance graphic designer in Colombia working for a client in the US. Normally, they'd wait days or weeks to get paid through PayPal, losing a chunk to fees. With Stellar, they can receive USDC in minutes and cash it out locally. That's more than convenience, that's livelihood. And the diaspora connection is massive. Millions of Latin Americans live abroad, from the US to Spain to Chile, constantly sending money back to their families. This steady stream of remittances is the lifeblood of many local economies. By plugging Stellar into this flow, families get more value, faster with less friction. Of course, Latin America also poses challenges. governments are wary of losing control over monetary policy. Some, like El Salvador, have embraced crypto. Others are hostile, fearing capital flight. But here's where Stellar's NGO and institutional partnerships help. It's not presenting itself as a threat. It's presenting itself as a tool. Aid groups, fintechs, and remittance companies are showing regulators that Stellar can complement, not overthrow, the system. The pattern is clear. In a region defined by inflation, migration, and remittances, Stellar isn't a speculative gamble. It's a practical lifeline. It's helping families protect their money in Argentina, supporting migrants in Venezuela, cutting fees in Mexico, and linking Brazil's booming digital economy to the rest of the world. Latin America has always been a testing ground for alternative financial systems, from dollarization to mobile wallets to now blockchain rails. And Stellar is positioning itself not as the loudest or flashiest player, but as the one quietly solving problems that touch millions of lives. When you shift the conversation to Asia, the scale of opportunity for Stellar gets supercharged. This is the region where billions of people live, where mobile adoption has skyrocketed, and where financial systems range from ultramodern to deeply underserved. And that mix creates a perfect playground for Stellar to show its strengths. Take the Philippines, for example. It's one of the biggest remittance markets in the world. Millions of Filipinos work abroad, in the Middle East, in the US, in Europe, and send money back home. In 2024, remittances to the Philippines crossed $40 billion. But here's the issue. The average worker sending $200 loses anywhere between 5 to 7% in fees. That's grocery money, school fees, rent, basically essentials shaved off. Stellar changes that equation by letting remittances move instantly, cheaply, and directly into digital wallets. A worker in Dubai can send USDC to a family in Manila, and they can cash it out at a local money partner almost instantly. That's life-changing. Then there's India. It's the largest remittance recipient on the planet, pulling in over $125 billion annually. India has also been pushing digital payments hard with UPI, its instant payment system. But UPI is domestic. It doesn't connect easily to other countries. That's where Stellar comes in, building rails that link India's hyper-efficient domestic system to global flows. Imagine an Indian student in the US being able to pay tuition fees back home instantly, or a small exporter in Mumbai receiving stablecoins from a client in Singapore without waiting weeks for a SWIFT transaction to clear. Zoom in further to Southeast Asia, and the opportunities multiply. Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand all have massive unbanked populations. At the same time, smartphone penetration is soaring. This means millions of people have mobile access but no access to traditional banks. Stellar bridges that gap by letting fintech startups issue wallets that connect directly to the Stellar network. For a farmer in rural Indonesia or a street vendor in Hanoi, that could be the first time they've had a secure way to store money or send it to relatives. But Asia isn't just about remittances. It's also about scaling financial inclusion and unlocking microfinance. In places like Cambodia and Nepal, microloans are a critical part of lifting communities out of poverty. Yet, managing those loans, distributing funds, collecting repayments, ensuring transparency, is messy and expensive. Stellar offers a system where every transaction is recorded immutably, every disbursement is instant, and every repayment is traceable. That doesn't just reduce costs, it builds trust in the system. At the same time, Asia is home to some of the most advanced fintech ecosystems in the world. Think Singapore, South Korea, and Japan. These countries are experimenting with tokenized assets, CBDCs, and next-gen payments infrastructure. Stellar has the chance to integrate with these cutting-edge projects, proving it can handle both the needs of unbanked farmers and high-tech economies. That dual positioning, serving both the grassroots and the cutting edge, is what makes Stellar so adaptable in Asia. And here's the bigger point. Asia is not waiting around. The demand for cross-border payments, stable savings, and financial access is massive and growing. The old infrastructure can't keep up. Stellar is stepping in with lightweight, fast, transparent solutions that fit the realities of life here. Whether it's a domestic helper in Hong Kong sending wages back to Manila, or a small e-commerce business in Vietnam looking to get paid by a US customer, Stellar provides the bridge. So if Africa is about mobile money revolutions, and Latin America is about escaping inflation, Asia is about scale and speed. The numbers are bigger, the markets are more diverse, and the stakes are higher. And Stellar is proving it can handle that complexity. When you zoom out from Africa, Latin America, and Asia, a pattern starts to emerge. Stellar isn't just dipping its toes into emerging markets. It's making them the centerpiece of its mission. And that's smart because these are the places where blockchain isn't a novelty. It's a necessity. Think about it. In Africa, Stellar is powering mobile-first economies where banks can't reach. In Latin America, it's helping families escape inflation and cutting fees on remittances. In Asia, it's bridging massive remittance flows and plugging into both grassroots and high-tech ecosystems. Different problems, same solution, fast, low-cost, transparent payments that actually meet people where they are. The advantage Stellar has in these markets is what I'd call the leapfrog effect. Just like many African countries skipped landlines and went straight to mobile phones, emerging markets are skipping the outdated banking rails and jumping straight to blockchain-powered payments. That means Stellar isn't fighting against entrenched systems. It's filling a void. And once you become the default in those environments, it's hard for competitors to dislodge you. So, the bigger picture is this. Stellar isn't positioning itself as the blockchain for Wall Street or Silicon Valley. It's positioning itself as the blockchain for the billions of people who need financial access the most. If it succeeds, it won't just be a key player in emerging markets. It'll be the network that rewrote how money moves around the world. Stellar isn't chasing headlines, it's solving problems. In Africa, it's bridging gaps where banks don't exist. In Latin America, it's helping families beat inflation and keep more of their remittances. In Asia, it's scaling across billions of people who are already mobile-first and hungry for better financial tools. 3 regions, 3 different struggles, and Stellar's tech fits them all. What stands out is how quietly effective it's been. While other projects fight for hype cycles, Stellar is winning trust on the ground with NGOs, fintechs, and even governments. That's not just adoption, that's validation. And if you're watching closely, you'll see it. The real crypto revolution isn't happening on Wall Street or in trading chat rooms. It's happening in markets that most people overlook, with communities that actually need better rails for money. And that's why Stellar's story matters. Because this isn't about speculation. It's about survival, access, and opportunity. If this breakdown resonated with you, share it with someone who still thinks blockchain is just a buzzword. And if you hold XLM, then comment XLM, so I can know and energeg with my followers, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Trust me, this is only the beginning.